Good evening, everyone. I see no one's at the coffee table, so I assume you're all ready for the program. The coffee table is cleared, the table with the coffee on it. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight to this free speech forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters. My name is Rosemary Balaz. I'm the president, and Janet Kramers is the vice president, and she will also be the timer. And Kathy Hanratty is our environmental chair. You probably know her. The purpose of the League of Women Voters of Geauga County is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government. The Free Speech Forum, ours, is modeled after the Cleveland City Club. I'm sure some of you know what that is. Only in Geauga County, 3 organizations do one program a year: the library, the Bar Association, and the League. And every now and then, one of those organizations skips a year. I don't know why. Well, I know why. Sometimes it's hard to find speakers for a good topic. This Free Speech Forum we set up because the Park District has issues at this time. And we have only 2 panelists tonight representing the conservation group, Protect Geauga Parks. I did call the Park District and was told they will not participate. The citizens, the public is welcome to go to their meetings where they control the meeting. So that was that. I'd like to introduce you to our 2 panelists from Protect Geauga Parks. Shelley Chernin and John Augustine agreed to be panelists this evening. And we did have an alternate, Kathy Webb. There she is, in case one of them got sick, but sorry, Kathy. They're here. Oh, that makes it easy, right? For the format this evening, I'm going to ask 4 questions of each panelist, and they will each have 5 minutes to answer each question. Oh, I mentioned the timer, Janet. She has a 30, we do this at the candidates' nights to keep things moving. She will hold up a card that says 30 when they have 30 seconds left, and done when they're done. And that's what we do to candidates, because some of them do run on. You know how that can be. After that, this portion of the program, we'll have a question and answer session from the audience. Questions and comments. And if there are questions, they will answer them to the best of their ability. And we have 2 sign-up sheets. I don't know how many people signed up. One was for conservation of the parks, and the other is for the new recreational direction it seems to be going in. And I was going to call a name from each one alternately so we get a balance from the audience. And then that person will have 1 minute to either make a comment or ask a question. And if they ask a question, one of these 2 panelists will respond, right? You have to be ready for anything. Then the timer we'll hold up the 1-minute sign when the person in the audience who's commenting or questioning has run out of time. That way we keep things moving. And I just ask if you keep your comments or questions brief and to the point, so others will have time to participate too. And, oh, I don't have to tell you, we have coffee and tea in the back. Well, I'm not sure about the tea, I forgot the tea bags. But whatever's back there is back there. Did you bring them? Okay. And the coffee is decaf, because we only have 2 wall plugs and 3 pots. So, there are more plugs, but not there. Now let me get on with the questions.
Rosemary, if I
Yes.
could have just a few seconds here.
Yes.
Shelley's going to start things off answering the first question, but I just wanted to thank you and the women voters, not only for these free speech forums, which are great, but also for all the work you and the league have done over the years prior to elections, letting people know what's going on. So I think that's great, and you deserve a big thank you from all the folks here. And also the sisters of Notre Dame for allowing us to use this wonderful facility. So
Yes.
thanks to all of you.
Our hardest work is in the fall, before campaigns and during campaigns, and then we try to do this in the spring. Okay, first question. We're gonna share the mic. What are your major concerns about the Geauga Park District at this time, and what strategies do you recommend for resolving these concerns?
I hear this is sensitive. Can you all hear me? Yeah? Can you hear me in the back? Okay. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting Protect Geauga Parks to speak about the concerns we have about the Geauga Park District. I want to thank everyone for coming. We all love our Geauga Parks. The Geauga Park District is a jewel among park systems, and until the recent changes, it was admired nationwide for its commitment to conservation, the expertise of its staff of naturalists, and the strong support that it receives from volunteers. I'd like to briefly share a little bit about the history of the Geauga Park District, because it actually involves the League of Women Voters. In 1959, the League of Women Voters and a number of local garden clubs became concerned about the increasing rate of construction in Geauga County. Wanting to conserve the county's natural areas, and to provide protected habitat for our native plants and animals, the groups were instrumental in the formation of the district in 1961, with a stated purpose to preserve, conserve, and protect the county's natural resources. This mission has served the parks for over 50 years. When the district was formed, there was already a state park system in place, as well as numerous township parks within the county, serving recreational and other needs within each township. The district was formed specifically to address the special and previously unmet need to preserve, conserve, and protect natural areas. In the context of this history, I'd like to address some of the major concerns about the district that we have and some strategies for addressing them. We're concerned about that the district's Board of Commissioners has changed the district bylaws and the statement of purpose that's contained in the bylaws, moving away from the original mission to preserve, conserve, and protect, and threatening the half-century legacy of the district. The bylaws were amended 5 times in the year between October 2013 and November 2014. In comparison, in the 20-year period before that, they were only amended 4 times. So we've had a lot of recent amendments. All the recent changes in the district bylaws were made without due consideration and without consulting the public. This recent series of amendments to bylaws were made by a Board of Commissioners that consisted of newly appointed people, none of whom had any previous experience or expertise in conservation or in park management. The previous experienced board was removed by the probate judge. Having lost its institutional memory, I think the board lost its way. Currently, the district statement of purpose puts the provision of outdoor recreational experiences on equal footing with the original mission to preserve, conserve, and protect natural areas. That is a really big change. The change in the park's original mission, and also a variation from the mission that was actually authorized by the state legislature when the enabling statute was first passed in 1919. In essence, by changing the bylaws and the statement of purpose, which was done without public discussion and without due consideration of the long-term consequences of adding recreation as an equal purpose with conservation, the board has unilaterally determined to permit activities in the park that will cause permanent changes in the ecosystem. This is a huge change in the direction of our parks and should have been thoroughly explored by the park's own conservation experts and openly discussed with the public. This never happened. The strategy for addressing the concern regarding the bylaws and the statement of purpose and the change in the park's mission is simple. Revoke the current bylaws and reinstate the bylaws that provide that the primary mission of the parks is to preserve, conserve, and protect the natural beauty and resources of Geauga County. This will restore the district's commitment to conservation. Another major concern I'd like to talk about briefly is the concern we have with the current administration of the district. Let me be clear that the Park District staff do a really wonderful job taking care of our parks and offering us a fabulous array of educational programs. Our concern is with the administration, who changed the direction of the parks, wastefully disregarded the expertise of their staff, made staff cuts, and weakened natural resource management. We're concerned the long vacant position of executive director has been weakened by bylaw amendments that make the position unappealing to qualified professionals. To address these concerns, the board needs to revise the authority of the executive director to make the position appealing to qualified candidates. They need to return the district's mission to preserving and protecting our park, and they need to support their park staff in accomplishing that mission. Thank you.
Well said, Sherry. You know, there's a lot of concerns we have, and you know, I'm gonna have to run through this pretty quick because the timekeeper's there on me. One of the biggest concerns is funding. Parks need funds to operate. They were started to protect land, to protect natural areas, ecosystems, and it takes funds to do that. You just can't pick money off trees to do it. One big concern we have, there seems to be an effort to defund the parks. You might ask why. Well, one reason why might be that the probate judge seems to align himself with the Tea Party. And if you look at their websites, you'll see they seem to, their goal seems to be to defund and dismantle public entities. Another reason could be jealousy. Maybe some of the political entities in the county, they might be a little jealous of how little effort the park had, how much success it has financially. They had this last levy that was put on the ballot 2 years ago. 55% of the people voted yes for that levy. Any school district would be ecstatic to have that kind of success with the levy passage. Another reason for that people might want to defund it, certain real estate speculators and their associates might resent land being taken out away that they can't buy to make money on turning to housing developments and the sort of things. So how do they go about this defunding? Well, this last year they were really talking out of both sides of their mouth when it comes to financing. First, we heard one of the park commissioners who resigned last year, but none of the other commissioners disagree with him. He talked about a $2 million deficit for the year, and that somehow they needed to cut to make up for this $2 million deficit. So they decided not to fill vacant positions. There was an assistant director who resigned about the time that Tom Curtin was let go. And by the way, Tom has still not been replaced. A chief ranger resigned. Several other people in the park were let go, like a development director who had a lot to do with acquiring funds for the park. And those were excuses used for this deficit, which we feel was fictitious. At the same time that they were talking about this $2 million deficit, they were talking about how much funds the park had been accumulating that they didn't need. They said there was like $10 million sitting in their accounts that was in excess. They used that as an excuse to try to suspend the levy, and the probate judge went before the Budget Commission last fall, and he came forward representing the park, and we feel that was inappropriate because he's not a representative of the park. He picks park commissioners. He made a proposal to voluntarily suspend the levy. The Budget Commission told the parks what they needed to do to prevent that suspension of the levy. They didn't do that. At the second Budget Commission meeting, John Oros made a similar proposal for a levy suspension. At that point, I'm not going to go into all the details, but the end result was that a levy suspension went into effect, and it cost the parks $800,000. That's money that will never be available for protecting land, open space, biodiversity, etc., etc. So what do we do about it? Short-term public pressure. We need to stop these levy suspensions, and we need to be using funds for the intended purpose that voters voted for. Voters voted to put these levies on the ballot, and that's what they should be used for those purposes. We're working to get them to hire a director that has a conservation ethic and knows why park districts were formed and will work towards those goals. And we'll bring the commissioners along in that way of thinking. Long term, we need to start to change state laws so that the probate judge does not have so much power. The probate judge can fire commissioners, essentially no notice, and at any time, and he can hire his own people as commissioners, and without they may not have any experience or knowledge, and they may have their own agenda. So I'll cut it there.
Wait, let me pull it up. That's pretty heavy. Okay, second question. Now you're all making mental notes so you know what to ask or say in the second half of the program, right? Second question, how would you make a case for or against the Geauga Park District using tax dollars and parklands to provide active use facilities such as baseball fields or ATV trails, which are not currently allowed in our parks? You want to go first again?
Okay. Let me put my answer in context by speaking again briefly about the history of the county parks in Ohio and also about the differences between different kinds of parks. The Ohio legislature authorized the establishment of county parks in 1919, although we didn't have any parks until 1961 here in Geauga County. The legislation in 1919 was very specific in authorizing the creation of county park districts, and this is a quote from the original statute, in order to provide for the preservation of natural resources. That's why we have county parks. We had then, and we still have, other kinds of parks, federal parks, state, municipal, township, all designed to serve other purposes. And I tend to think it's unfortunate that the same word park is used to describe so many different kinds of places. Everything from your local playground to Yosemite to Disneyland, they're all called parks. And I think our failure to have specific language for specific kinds of parks confuses people. In that context, in answer to your question about using county parklands for active use facilities, Protect Geauga Parks is not opposed to any particular activities in the parks per se. So I'm not going to make a case for or against using park facilities for any particular activities. Rather, we would suggest that there are common standards that should be used for all decisions regarding any particular suggested use of parkland. In every case, the district should consider these 4 criteria. First, is the use compatible with the primary mission of the park to preserve, conserve, and protect natural resources. Second, is the use necessary? Third, is the use fiscally responsible? And finally, is the decision-making process transparent? I'll talk about each of those criteria in a little more detail. The first one, is the use compatible with the primary mission to preserve, conserve, and protect natural resources? When considering this criterion, the appropriate study needs to be conducted by qualified experts already employed by the district to consider what impact the activity in question will have on our parks. If needed, a scientific and unbiased environmental impact study should be completed to confirm that the use or activity promotes and enhances, or at a minimum, does no harm to the quality of our air, our water, our soils, forests, and biodiversity. Second, is the use necessary? Due diligence must be done to assure that the use is not a duplication of services already available in the county. A determination should be made that a true majority of the public has shown a need for the use or activity. Third, is the use or activity fiscally responsible? Factors to be considered include not only the cost of the improvements needed for the use, but increased park liability, the need for increased staff and ranger hours, and the need for ongoing maintenance. Also, the district should consider whether the use will negatively impact the value of the ecosystem services and whether that loss needs to be mitigated. And finally, has the decision-making process been transparent? To be transparent, all of the standards and the data used to address the first three criteria that I just talked about should be readily available to all citizens of the county during the decision-making period. I hope that the one thing all of us can agree on is that we love the parks. They belong to all of us. The Park District should welcome the involvement of interested citizens who love the parks and who want to be involved in the district's mission to preserve, conserve, and protect. Making information readily available to everyone to enable people to participate in their own park district will help the district to make wise decisions when asked to provide a particular use or facility. These are the four criteria that should be used in determining whether or not to use park dollars, park lands, to provide active use facilities of any sort. Since I have a little time left, I'll start, and although I don't know if I'll finish, by using an example. Let's talk about playgrounds, because they've been talked about a lot lately. So, first we would ask, is the playground that's being proposed compatible with the primary mission to preserve, conserve, and protect natural resources? So we would need to do a study to look at where the playground is going, what's going to be taken out in order to put that playground in, and how the presence of the playground will affect the area around it, the land, the water, the soil, the wildlife, the plant life. Next, we would look at whether the use is necessary. Are there other playgrounds nearby? Is it needed? Has the public shown a need? Do the majority of people want a playground in this place? Then is the playground financially fiscally responsible? And I knew I was going to run out of time, but we can think about whether or not a particular playground is fiscally responsible. And then we would look at whether or not the decision-making process is transparent.
Yeah, well said. You know, there's almost any activity that people want to do, any hobby, that is nicer in a natural area. But that doesn't mean, as Shelley said, that doesn't mean they have to be in a natural area. Because there's detrimental effects from that. Noise is a good example. Many kinds of wildlife will, if a noisy environment comes around them, they disappear. Certain birds will abandon nests if it's too noisy. Proponents of noisy activities in parks will often say, well, it's just a small area of park. But in essence, that noise carries a long ways, and it affects animals for a long ways. And people, too. Parks are for people. We live in a noisy world. There's, we have cars, road noise, leaf blowers. We could go on and on with the noise. And many people cherish a place where they can get away from that, take a quiet walk, and listen to the sounds of nature. That's important. And if we have these active uses in parks that generate a lot of noise, and it moves it for those other uses. So they're not compatible. There's an old Forest Service was pushing for some years multiple use, and there's an old saying, multiple use is multiple abuse, and that's the truth. Often it is. As far as some of these other activities, they can be done well other places. There are snowmobiling. You can join the snowmobiling club. They have trails on private lands that they put in. In terms of recreation and in terms of playground equipment, most township parks have that, and they don't have very much natural areas. Very few. Thompson has a ledge park, which is pretty nice. That's a very nice natural areas. But most township parks, it's strictly ball fields, horseshoe pits. I know that's the case in Parkland, and oftentimes those aren't being made use of very often. I go by the park with the playground equipment quite often, and I don't think I ever see someone there. As far as the ball field, maybe once a year, someone will be out there playing. When you say to someone the word national park, people eyes light up. They look at their national parks as a gold standard. Look at what's in national parks. You won't see playground. Can anyone see playground equipment there? I haven't. There are some things that are in national parks that the Park Service themselves would like to get rid of. Things like snowmobiling in Yellowstone. The Park Service feels it's detrimental to wildlife, and it's also detrimental to their employees because of all the pollution, the air pollution from the snowmobiles that have no pollution or very little pollution equipment on them. We did have a park in Geauga County that had a lot of these motorized amusement type of things. There were rides there, shooting ranges, man-contrived motor activities, and it went out of business, Geauga Lake. So if you're interested, people who are interested in that, maybe they should buy Geauga Lake and start it up again. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
In your opinion, if a county resident contacts the Park District to request the addition of an activity not currently allowed or available, such as snowmobiling or a shooting range, what should be the appropriate response by the Park District and why?
The appropriate response of the district should be to politely tell the resident that the district will consider this request in accordance with a list of criteria that are used when considering every request. And I talked about those criteria before, but let me mention them again. Is the use compatible with the primary mission of the park to preserve, conserve, and protect natural resources? Is the use necessary? Is the use fiscally responsible? And is the decision-making process transparent? The district should then conduct any necessary scientific studies and make a determination consistent with those 4 criteria, and then inform the resident of the results of the consideration of the request. It's pretty simple. Let me say additionally that I've heard it suggested that people who wish to engage in certain activities not currently allowed or available in the parks are somehow being excluded from the parks. This simply is not so. Everyone is welcome to come use the parks, to hike the trails, to picnic, to fish, to ride horses, cross-country ski, or just enjoy the peace and tranquility that our parks offer. No person is excluded from the parks if, through using the 4 criteria that I've described to you,